Lightning Strike took Coco Pommel to a lovely restaurant nearby to her town, and well there, he let her decide to eat, so she chose lasagna for a belt. And at the restaurant, Coco couldn't resist to look at her bracelet, and she couldn't even stop smiling by just looking at Lightning Strike. And they both had this wonderful night together. They were talking a lot. They were know each other more. They asked about each other for some questions, to know what their interests were, some sort of things. And Coco did actually really like him even more. And she really enjoyed this time with Lightning Strike. While on their date, Coco really had a great time with Lightning Strike. He told her about some former performance with his team, and she really listened to all of it. She was actually interested to hear all about his old performance, and even about his old childhood when he lived in Manhattan, and when before he moved to Trottingham, and later to Cloud City, or Cloudsdale, which he called Cloud City, which is a city in the clouds. After their dinner, Lightning Strike ordered a chocolate dessert from both. And after they had their date, Lightning Strike then asked how Coco liked her date with him. I really loved it. It was really great. I haven't matched this fun in a long time. Just after Lightning Strike and Coco Pommel left the restaurant, they were surrounded by at least 5 mayors, who was one day Lightning Strike's autograph, and he signed them, of course. And after they left the street, but without notice some other pony behind them. There were a pony in the shadows, watching them, taking pictures of them. And that was actually a ponyrazza, or ponyrazzi, a photographer who was taking famous pictures of, like, celebrities. Back at the hotel, Lightning Strike followed with Coco Pommel to her room, and there he said, "Thanks for a good night. I love it." "Same here," said Coco. "Well, maybe we can go out some other time." "Yeah, I like that," said Coco. And just before he left, he gave her a goodnight kiss on her cheek, and she went back into her room. She stood at the door, and she couldn't stop smiling, and she just was so happy. But early next morning, when Coco was in the restaurant, suddenly she heard a voice. "Coco, we need to talk." She could see it was Lightning Strike. "Oh, Lightning Strike, hi." "Hi, can we talk? I just found out something very strange, but kinda serious." "What is it?" Then he showed her a paper, a newspaper, or the morning paper. There he saw a picture with them leaving the restaurant, and under she could see the headlines. "Lightning strikes after Wonderballs with a secret date or a secret wife." When was this taken? She asked. Last night, at the same time we left the restaurant. But who? I can only guess Pony Razzie was hiding somewhere and took this picture. Have you tried to talk to the owner of the newspaper? I did, but they didn't want to leave out the source who took it. But I explained every detail for this Pony Razzie or for at least the publisher of this new morning paper that it was not my wife. She was at my date for the night. But they wanted to explain it, but they apologized for us for it. Well, that's good, she said. I'm so sorry about this. It's okay, I understand about this, she said. I have been taking pictures before by Pony Razzie, so I'm kinda used to it. Aren't you? Yeah, I am, she said. They both sat down at the table and talked for a bit before he would have to leave, because he had to go back to Canterlot Castle for a meeting with the princess. But he even asked if she wanted to meet him later that night, just for take a walk or something. And Coco said, yeah, I'd love that. Then he said goodbye and he left the restaurant. Coco said we're still in the restaurant for another half hour eating after breakfast before she went back to this boutique. And for the rest of the day, she was working and working a lot in the store at this boutique. And she had a lot of customers who asking about the picture. And she explained every detail, everything over and over until she was getting tired. Every customer was asking about the picture. I'm sorry, I don't want to talk about it anymore. A lot of customers are asking me about it. I'm sorry, I don't want to talk about it. Later that afternoon, Coco did receive a message from Lightning Strike. He said he wanted to meet her about at 4 p.m. at the boutique when it was closed. And Coco then smiled and was excited to meet him again. Then the rest of the day she worked, made some dresses, sold clothes, even took some orders of new designs she wanted to make, and even took in orders from other ponies who want to make some change on their clothes or new designs. But around the time when she closed her shop, the boutique, at 4 p.m. or p.m., she waited for Lightning Strike. She waited, and waited. First, 3 minutes passed. She thought maybe she's just a few minutes late. Then 5 minutes passed. She looked again at the time on the watch, the clock tower nearby. 10 minutes. 15 minutes. Then, after 30 minutes, she wonders, had he stood up for her for someone else? Or, well, she's decided to wait just a little bit longer. But after another 10 minutes, she decided he's not coming. So, she started feeling left out, abandoned. She thought he was the right pony for her, and she thought really that he really liked her. And she even thought, was he using her just from selling these pictures in the magazine she saw earlier? She couldn't believe that happened, because he has been so honest to her. But just thinking about that possible idea, it made her start to cry. And she ran back to the hotel, and she didn't leave her room till the next morning. But then, early next morning, she heard a knock on the door. She opened it, and outside it was Soren of this Wonderballs. Hi, Soren. What are you doing here? I'm sorry, but I kind of needed to talk to you about Lightning Strike. Don't mention him. He never showed up yesterday because he promised. That is the reason why I'm here, said Soren. Can I come in? Coco was looking at Soren and know that he was at least honest, because they had been dated at least a few times before, and of course she let him in. He stood at the door in her room, looking at her. So, what do you want to talk about? She said. Soren was quiet first, looked at her, and took a deep breath and said, the reason is why Lightning Strike didn't show up yesterday is because he was in an accident yesterday. An accident? What kind? It was during the training session. He flew right in a cloud. Unfortunately, it was the local weather team. They, by accident, launched a lightning right on Lightning Strike, and he was hit twice, and he fell to the ground, and now he's in a hospital in coma. In coma? Coco was devastated. She never thought that Lightning Strike could be at the hospital. But when he will wake up? She was devastated, still so devastated. According to doctors, they do not know. Days, weeks, months, or never. But a possible idea that Lightning Strike never will wake up haunted Coco's mind. Coco asked Soren if he could take her with her to the hospital so she could see him. And Soren couldn't say no, so he brought with her to the hospital. And there she saw him, Lightning Strike, in the bed, unconscious. Put through some machine. She could see the heart monitor, and she was so devastated she started to cry even more and more. She couldn't stop crying, and Soren felt so sorry about her, and even asked if she wanted to be alone. And she just nodded, and of course Soren would understand, so he left the room. Well outside, he saw that Spitfire and Flip-Float was coming, but he stopped them for entering and explained why. And of course Spitfire then really understood, so she decided to let Coco Pommel be there. And she even asked the doctor as well, but the doctor said explained everything in detail for her, because since Lightning Strike was hit by the lightning twice. I'm sorry, but we don't know for sure if he will wake up, and if he do, we don't know for how long we will take him home. But what the odds that he will wake up? The odds that he will wake up is about, we only estimate 5-6%, and 5-6% was quite low for the chance for him to wake up. But Coco didn't believe it. She wanted him to wake up because she wanted to tell him how much she loves her and loves him. But since she was allowed to stay too long, maybe just for about 15 minutes each time, and this time the visit hours was already over, so she had to leave the hospital. Even the Wonderballs weren't allowed to stay even after the visiting hour was over. Soren spent some time with Coco to trust her and comfort her about this. and she accepted, of course. Coco visited Lightning Strike at his bed every day for at least for another 6 months, and every time she was spending time with him, she cried and talked to him, telling him what's happening over the last every day, basically at her work and with his friends, and just what's happening on the question. And she also asked him to wake up. Please wake up. But every time she tried, he didn't respond. And the doctor told her once the odds for him waking up was now 4 to 5%. And the doctor said if he doesn't wake up within the next couple of weeks, the Wonderbolts had to declare him legally dead. Since there was no sign of him waking up, and to hear that, Coco was devastated. She wanted him to wake up. She tried everything. She even asked the princess if they could stop this procedure, but since they saw there was no other way for to interfere with the law, she even asked her friend Twilight if she could help to maybe find some way to the spell that can waken him up. But Twilight then searched from the books, but she found out no spell could wake him up. And she was now alone against the time. And just a few days before the time was over for him, she went to his room and sit there for 10 minutes, and then before she had to leave, she said, Lightning, I love you, and I love you since every day since I saw you the first time years ago. Please, wake up. I don't want to lose you. You're my love of my life. And just before she was about to walk out, Coco, is that you? She heard a voice. She turned around and saw him, awake. Lightning, you're awake, she said. She was overjoyed by the news. She left the room and screamed for the doctor, and even the doctor was well surprised. But she knew her love waking him up. And soon, just a few days later, Lightning Strike was now released from the hospital, but the doctor told him, you have to remain calm for the next few days, but no training at all, for at least another 2 weeks. 2 weeks? What was I going to do at the time? Training the round live for, said Lightning Strike. He was too shocked to have not allowed to train for another 2 weeks. But now he now has the 2 weeks off from work from his team to spend time with Coco. And she actually, didn't mind to spend some time with him. And he offered her to travel back with her to Manhattan. So he decided to help her at her boutique there. And that was not much stress for him, since he could help her deliver some fabrics, even deliver some clothes donated for clothes by the dresses in Manhattan. And even that at the time, just working together made the connection between them even better.